It's 24 past 3 in Newcastle, Australia. It's 4:24 in Manchester, England. And this is the only place in the world where you won't be invading the pitch, abusing the referees, and risk force being behind closed doors. Yes, hello, and welcome back to the Sideline Chat podcast, the one-stop shop for rugby league. Along with Mark Henry, I'm Connor Marstells, and today it is the beginning of Season 3. Season 3. Can you believe that we are finally at this point, a month out from the start of the season?
No, Season 3 is unbelievable. How have we gone through 2 seasons? We've endured like lockdowns and everything, but we've pushed through, we've gone through, we've done it solo, you've done it solo, I've had to do it from the World Cup. And welcome back from the World Cup. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bloody good time, good food, and of course good rugby league. We'll talk more about that later because right now it is part 1 of our 2023 Betfred Super League preview series. And coming up right now, we have the Castleford Tigers.
Castleford, well, what a season that I had last season. Wasn't the flashiest, but it wasn't a worse season for them. It was kind of like an average season, you could say.
We set this up as the first season under Lee Radford after he was sensationally sacked on live TV in March of 2020. And I gotta say, I was left wanting more. The theme you could describe Castleford of 2022 is one of new coach, new side, but that same problem of finishing just outside the playoffs.
Yes.
That translated through once again in 2022. And how much more can the Castleford fans take within the last 5 years since they've ended in the grand final?
Well, that's a long time between drinks since making the grand final. Or even, I don't know.
2018, they were semi-finalists. 2019, they were semi-finalists. Then the last 3 years, they finished outside the top part of the table when many people thought they could definitely finish inside of it.
They certainly did think that, but it's a funny game of rugby league. Like, some teams are better than what everyone predicts, and just some are just inconsistent too much. And I think that's what cost Castleford a playoff spot in season 2022, was just the inconsistency and can't finish off the games.
By June, they're running 5th. They're in the top 6, and I predicted them to finish inside that top 6, I believe against Leeds in the playoffs, if I wasn't mistaken, or just below Leeds on our predicted table up on Facebook, if you want to have a look at it. But then they just finish outside the 6 again. How do they manage to find themselves in this position? Let me refresh your memory. They get knocked off by St. Helens 20-12 away at the Totally Wicked Stadium. And then they have 2 bad losses, both to Huddersfield and Warrington, within the final month, before a final showdown at Headingley against Leeds, where the Rhinos pull off a miraculous win.
It literally come down to see who was going to make the post between Castleford and the Leeds Rhinos in the final match of the season. Well, regular season, I should say. And ultimately, the Rhinos wanted it more, and they did that. And that's another story on their own, which we'll touch on
next
week. So,
but for Lee Radford to come in with the promise of refreshing the Castleford Tigers after Darryl Powell's era was over. And the sloppiest starts, I mean, their clashes against Salford were disappointing, to say the least. Yes, I know that is ultimate satisfaction to your ears.
I was going to say, it wasn't disappointing for me. I could say that.
But this is the second straight year in a row that they have finished 7th. That's just not good enough. And I know this was only Radford's first year back after getting sacked in 2020. But it's still, with all the potential of that Castleford side and the capability they can throw the ball around, that just wasn't good enough for me.
No, it certainly wasn't good enough. They need to improve on that and just try and be more consistent. And consistency, yes, you may not finish on top of the table for being for winning every game and that, but it's about consistency, which also makes you in the top 6. So if they just be that consistent, and the second year under Lee Radford, that should hopefully help them out.
I think there were 2 players that stood out, because trying to have a look at Castleford's campaign as it was, you had the sloppy opening, that good middle period where you thought, oh yeah, the Tigers are surely going to make it into the top 6 this time, and then that slow little peter away, the final month where Salford pumped 50 on them, is just like, are they even going to make it? But two men, I feel, stood head and shoulders above the rest of that pack. First of all, their new recruit, Joe Westerman, who they picked up from Wakefield. 1 try, 3 try assist, 2,438 run meters, 44 tackle breaks, 4 line breaks, and a whopping 36 offloads in 1 year.
Wow, that is unbelievable. And if you can continue that momentum heading into 2023, watch out.
Well, I feel like he was effective for Castleford in the middle of the field, but not so effective as their captain, Paul McShane, who I also believe had a good year. 1 try, 14 try assists, 1,113 run meters, 21 tackle breaks, 4 line breaks, 13 offloads, 1 40-20 kick, always important for a hooker.
Yes.
5 from 7 goals converted, and a whopping 892 tackles in a single year. This for a side that finished outside the top 6.
And that is a good captain's knock there from Paul McShane. Bit quiet on the try-scoring sheet, but every other stat, he was well and truly up there. So that's a very good, solid effort there.
And we're talking about a man who has seen the rise and the fall of Castleford. That's essentially what it has been. From 2017 until now, it has been the rise and then the fall.
Exactly. So what are you going to say is this year, a fall or a rise? Because they're about mid-table, so it's hard to tell if they're going to rise up to the top or fall back down to the bottom.
Well, before we jump into that, we've got to have a look at how they're going to shape up in the first year of this new Betfred Super League 2023 season, because it's always about the start when it comes to these things, and Castleford is no exception to that whatsoever. So apparently the RFL changed the website up where you have to manually look at all the fixtures instead of narrowing down to one particular team. But nevertheless, this is how Castleford's first 5 rounds open up. An away game at the MKM Stadium against Hull FC.
Oh, well, the rate the Hull FC were going at the back end of last season, or last season in general, it could be a victory for Castleford, but in saying that, we had to
Hull's the bogey side of Castleford.
Yes.
Hull FC is very much the bogey side, and getting them first game up, we'll see how that one pans out. First Channel 4 game of the year sees them face off against the reigning champion St Helens in what will be their first game of the year. At home.
At home, yes. Well, home in England for St Helens, but But anyway, we should know where that one should go, surely.
The World Club Challenge will play a factor, I reckon, considering they're going to travel practically a whole day from England out to here. They'll stay for 2 weeks. You probably covered this in the last time you did the sideline chat on your own. Battle of the Saints on the 12th. 11th. Yeah, same day as the All-Stars game. We'll get more into that when we get closer. And then, of course, the Betfred World Club Challenge against the Penrith Panthers.
And let's just say it's great to have the World Club Challenge back.
I'm looking for
this is what we've missed out on the last few years because of COVID and that. Like Penrith and St Helens. This year, it should have been last year as well, but this will be that World Cup challenge we'll touch on more when it gets closer, but that is going to be a really juicy match.
I think this will be one to remember for the ages. Now, round 3 for Castleford at home to the Wigan Warriors.
Again, the rate that, I know we're talking about Castleford, but the rate that Wigan were going at, it's going to be hard to stop them again.
Round 4 sees them travel to the John Smith Stadium to take on the new Jake Connor Huddersfield Giants,
who were the underdogs in last season.
We'll touch on Huddersfield very shortly, but it's so far not looking good for Lee Radford as we finally get up to round 5, a rematch at the Jungle against the Leeds Rhinos. So the reigning champions, the runners-up, the heavyweight favourites, you'd have to say, in the Wigan Warriors, starting in 2023. Huddersfield will be up there as well. And, of course, Hull FC, the bogey side.
Yeah, so it's a bit hot and cold for them at the start of the year. Like, there are winnable games for Castleford at the start of the year. It's just a matter if they can do it or not.
Well, if they can catch the champions early, I think that would be a massive boost for them. But other than that, it is a horror start.
It is.
A horror first 5 rounds for Lee Radford. And I would feel sorry for any Castleford supporter who has to deal with that first 5 games right there and right then.
But with the changes that they've got, they've signed some really quality players coming into their side.
Well,
Especially Gareth Widdop.
Well, we'll touch on that. The roster rotation up now. We have Chase Blair leaving the club after what seemed like a good 3 or 4 year stay at the Jungle. Daryl Alford defects to join up with the Leeds Rhinos in 2023. Gareth O'Brien and the ever-loyal utility for the last couple of seasons jumping ship to the Lee Leopards. There's Jake Truman defecting to Hull FC after doing his knee in the last season, as well as James Clare, Ryan Hampshire, and Sasaya Feki all jumping ship, yet to confirm where they end up.
But some of the signs they have made from Hull Kingston Rovers, they have signed Bailey Dawson and Albert Vade. The biggest signing, I think, is Gareth Widdop from the Warrington Wolves, and the most surprising signing, I think.
Well, speaking of the signings, of course, Hull KR, they picked up Bailey Dawson from the academy and Albert Vete from the first team, as you mentioned. And Jack Broadbent being signed from the Leeds Rhinos via the Featherstone Rovers, which many agree was the worst kept secret in rugby league, that Jack Broadbent would be wearing the black, orange/amber at the Jungle in 2023. Jacob Hookham joined up from Hull FC. Jacob Miller from the Leeds... from
Wakefield Trinity.
I saved it, so I don't need to edit that out later on. And Muz Mustafa from the Leeds Rhinos rounds out all the signings Lee Radford has made in his second season in charge.
Well, like I said, Widdop is a massive, massive signing. He's probably got Jack of Warrington going shit, so I was like, right, I'm going to Castleford. But also another one, how Jacob Miller was playing for Wakefield at the back end of the season. That's a bit of a loss for Wakefield, but not a bad gain for Castleford, I think. He's young, he's still got a lot to learn and prove himself, but if he can continue on what he was doing at Wakefield and be in that little bit better side.
Well, Jacob Miller was amongst Wakefield's best, and that's saying a lot, really, considering where Wakefield are. I would probably say at this point in time, not just from the financial sense, but from an on-field point of view. And you now stick him in. This is what Radford's now going to decide. He's got this spine debate. He's got this debacle. He's got Widdop, he's got Miller, with Danny Richardson and Paul McShane. There's no Evels. Well, there's still Evels at fullback, actually. But now here's the question. How is he going to fit all of them into the spine at once, even with Evels if he starts at fullback?
Well, that's the question we had to ask Radford, really.
Well, that is a question.
Or keep us guessing, keep our toes until the team lists come out for round one.
Well, the squad odd numbers are yet to still be announced, and that gives us no real indication whatsoever, which would honestly be a big thing. But if I was looking at it from this point of view, I would probably shift Niall Evans out to the flank to cover for Alford where he would have been. Widdop goes to fullback, and then Miller and Richardson are the halves moving forward. But
yeah, okay.
I'm not the Castleford coach, so that's only up for Lee Radford right there.
Well, you have to have Widdop in the side because of his experience, but I don't know about at fullback. I know he's played fullback in the past, but not a lot of games. He's played more at 5'8" than at fullback, so we'll have to wait and see, but I do like your thinking, though.
It's that question that I think will have to be answered before the ball kicks off in February, and that's fast approaching.
Oh, yes.
For Castleford in particular.
It's fast approaching for everyone in general, to be quite honest with you.
Final verdict after going on for nearly 14 minutes. If he doesn't solve this debacle early, Castleford still have a relatively strong squad, but have failed to really challenge any of the big packs or the big sides in this affair whatsoever. Would that be fair to say?
I have to agree with you. He needs to perform and really be challenging for the top sides like your St. Helens, your Catland, and your Wigan Warriors. If they can beat them early on in the season, well, it will be a very interesting season ahead for Castleford if they can knock off those three early on.
For me, it's the inconsistency that dogs me with the Tigers. Because at the middle stage, you think they're going to go through to the playoffs, and then by the back end, they lose out in the clutch games. If they don't lose 50-10 against Salford And if Huddersfield doesn't bowl them over 36-10, as well as that clutch result at Headingley, Castleford could have easily been in the top 6 rather than Salford.
Hands down, easy.
But that didn't happen that way. And I think Tigers fans are going to ask themselves, if we don't make the playoffs, will we make the playoffs before 2025? With all the IMG reform going round, all the talks about licensing, on-field results would count for something once all of the IMG recommendations do go through. And that could be the difference between a Category A and a Category B license.
Yeah, it certainly is. So really, this is the year that I have to perform to get like the license for 2025 or the Category A. I'm guessing Category A is the highest license.
Category A is the strongest license, which guarantees your future in the top flight.
So really, if they really need to do results this year so they can be that little bit closer to getting the Category A license for 2025.
Once the full recommendations are rolled out by both the RFL and Super League.
Yeah.
Last year, Castleford finished 7th on the table, narrowly missing the playoffs. I think the pressure will be too much for them at the end, and I think there are one or two sides that do have that edge to try and break into the 6th. So I'm going to say Castleford finish in 8th.
Look, like you said, they finished 7th. They were just they really lost it at the back end of the match and back end of the season, and those crucial games that they had to win to try and guarantee a spot into the playoffs really cost them. But I personally think they'll be about the same again on the ladder. Probably, maybe I have to agree with you, 7th or 8th. I'm going to probably lock in 7th spot again.
So I say 8th, you say 7th for the Castleford Tigers, narrowly finishing outside the top 6 for the 3rd year in a row.
What is it with Tigers? Just quickly, though.
Honestly, I have no idea whether they be Castleford or whether they be Wests. I seriously don't know on that front. Now, moving on to the halfway point, we have the Catalan Dragons. And oh boy, did Steve McNamara rob a lot of neutral supporters up the wrong way with his fans' behaviour.
Yes, he certainly has. As you said in the introduction, a very new introduction, which is very liking, in my view, and hope you guys like it too.
Outside of the pitch invasion comments, which of course Catalan haven't done, that's just a joke, really.
Slow news day story kind of thing.
Well, I mean, January and February, either side of the world, is a slow rugby league news story. But if I can make a joke about other sports, just not talk about them, then I feel like I can probably get away with that one.
Yes, you can. I'll let you get away with it.
But where would you rate the Catalan Dragons 2022 season?
Well, where they finished, what, 3rd? 2nd? 4th?
4th on the table.
So they slipped down slightly from 2021, where they made the grand final. But they'd still be happy with the result, but they'll still be disappointed that they didn't quite go that one better than what they did in 2021.
The big thing for me was trying to get one better after the retirement of the great James Maloney. Because without a doubt, he is now written amongst the Catalan Dragons folklore.
Easy. Even though he played, a couple seasons?
2 years. He played 2 years with them. He didn't fulfill his 3rd one. Not a surprise, really.
No.
When has he ever fulfilled a full contract?
Probably
the Roosters.
Maybe. I don't even think he did that in his last... before he went off to Penrith?
No, you're thinking from the point when he was still with Cronulla.
Cronulla, sorry.
No. Full contract fulfilled at the Roosters.
Oh, there you go.
And then, of course, the last 6 years of his career, he was basically going to the point where he
2 years, see you later. 2 years, see you later. 2 years, see you later. Kind of thing.
Yeah, so the big question was, and especially with Mitchell Pearce joining, could he guide Catalan into a commanding position?
Well, he had a slow start to the season, Mitchell Pearce, but then he gradually got better and better, but then he dropped off again. So they need him to be consistent, fit, healthy, and firing, and using all of his experience and really controlling the game to help them be nudging for first spot.
The first 3 weeks, I would say, were absolutely sluggish for the Catalan Dragons. I think there is really no mincing of words on that front. They were sluggish. Grand final rematch against the reigning champions that went awry big time, including Dylan Napa getting red carded in his first ever Super League match.
Yes.
No surprises there.
No.
They got dragged into a dogfight against Wakefield and Leeds when both were struggling early. And I think Mitchell Pearce, he got a yellow card in that third round at Headingley, but managed to hang on for the 10-4 win. But after that, it was just a sluggish start. They actually kicked into gear a little bit there.
They certainly did, and they realised, oh, God, here we go. We're starting to go not so good, so I thought we better get our act together and kick on, and that's what they started to do. But they did have a fair few injuries or suspensions as well. They had Napa, they had, I think, Gil Dudson out at one stage earlier in the season, so that didn't quite help them at all.
There were massive concerns, but they've never... The remarkable thing was they actually never conceded 3 straight league defeats. They had 2 windows where they conceded 2 straight losses, but never in league did they lose more than 3 in a row, which is rather remarkable given where their side was.
It certainly is. Usually, if they go in a period, well, any team really, if it's like 2 in a row, you kind of go on to 3 or 4, but then 2, then win at least a couple of games again. It's just a pattern that you don't usually see often in rugby league on either side of the world.
Yeah, that's rather interesting. I mean, they weren't as dominant as they were in 2021, but they still did a remarkable job. Where they fell flat, and I think we do have to talk about this, it was in the clutch moment in the elimination playoff. They finished 4th on the table. They earned their right to be in the playoffs ahead of sides like Saints, Wigan, and Huddersfield all ahead of them. But the behaviour during that elimination finals loss has consequences, to say the least.
It certainly does. And they don't want that to happen, but...
Well, it's already happened.
Well, there you go, it has happened.
Fan misbehaviour, the Catalan Dragons were fined £25,000, of which half of that has been suspended until the end of this upcoming season.
Wow. Is that regular season or grand final?
Regular season.
Okay.
Further crowd misbehaviour, which was a result of that, abusing the referee, could force them to play 2 home games behind closed doors.
Wow.
So, for the context of the joke early, the Melbourne Derby in the football, like proper football, Englishmen understand because league doesn't reach out beyond the M62 corridor, there was a decision taken to move the grand final to a neutral venue rather than the highest ranked side that made it getting the hosting rights.
Which is how it should be.
Well, again, that's neither here nor there. But what happened at one of these protests, flares were thrown, the city goalkeeper probably made a bit of an idiotic decision in his good intention to try and clear the field of flares.
Yes.
And then the field was rushed, forcing the game to be abandoned. Only now have sanctions of up to $500,000 been handed down. And Melbourne Victory basically having to play out the rest of the season behind closed doors, only ticketed members allowed in.
Yeah, so no active supporter bays are allowed home and away for them at that venue. Well, and in general, really.
And this also follows on from the top as well. Bernard Wash, the owner of the Catalan Dragons, was previously fined £10,000 for comments he made about the referee in his side's loss to reigning champions back in 2021. So there is a bit of problem here with the Catalan Dragons. It's not so much they've got ill-disciplined problems, it's the fact that they got off-field issues. With off-cuff comments, which, whether they be justified or not, and the fan and its misbehaviour, this has now come back to bite. But I don't really see this as sort of an agenda against the Catalan Dragons. This is, apart from the fact that the only French team, you have to play by the ball of standards.
Yep. You're setting examples to younger kids that want to get in and play the game of rugby league. And if this off-field stuff happens, And like kids will be thinking, oh well, if this is happening off field for this club, I don't want to go to this club, even though they're my local club, kind of. Well, not local club, but you get what I'm saying. But
They
it kind of
need
it just
to
did
keep
to
a cool head. The
yeah.
fans, the owner, and the team, because you get them rattled, they go erratic, and erratic loses games, and it could lose money and support.
Yeah.
And it had been such a remarkable season from them that they were still able to be competitive, but not really be at their peak of the 2021 power.
Yeah. Which was a shame because they really. It was a wonder story in 2021 for Catalan Dragons, but they just, like you said, all these issues going on did not help them whatsoever in 2022, which is unfortunate because they are a very capable side.
You want them to succeed because they are the ambassadors of French Rugby League in the United Kingdom's league structures.
Yes.
Now, moving on, we've got their first 5 fixtures up and running right here. An away trip to Wakefield Trinity.
Should be an easy one.
Expected to win, I believe.
Well, this is only based on 20... Well, my views anyway, based on the 2022 season. I had to think for a second.
2022 form will count for naught, but it's
I know.
But we do like to predict the indications of where we think matches could or would end up, depending on where we see it at the time. First home game of the year against the Lee Leopards, travelling to the south of France.
Well, the Leopards, aka former Centurions, back into the Super League.
4th time now.
Yeah, so it's going to be a bit of a learning curve for the Leopards to get back into the grind of it all. So that should be another Catalan's victory. And that'll be behind closed doors, I believe. Would it be?
No, they're risking closed doors.
Risking, sorry, my bad.
I was only laying out the punishments as I was reading them, courtesy of Love Rugby League right there. Link I'll leave down in the description for all your news regarding both sides of rugby league around the world. Back-to-back home games up against Hull FC in round 3. That should be another easy dispatch for the Catalan men right there.
Should be.
Round 4 and their first Sky Sports game of the year, a trip to the DW Stadium to face down the Wigan Warriors.
Well, that's going to be a tough game right there. I think this is going to be the real first test for the Catalans Dragons against the Warriors.
Well, Wakefield, Lee, Hull SC, Wigan, and then finally coming up upon round 5 to round out their first few fixtures right there. Another home game, this time against Hull KR.
Yeah.
So, out of that, I think that's reasonably well. They've got
at least 4 out of 5 victories.
2 easy wins in Wakefield and Lee, the way I see it.
Yeah.
Hull KR and Hull FC might prove a bit more stiffer opposition. So those 2 could be wins, but coin flip them. And Wigan could much as well be a loss.
Yeah,
so
well, yeah.
You're realistically looking at either a 3-2 or a 4-1 start for our French side right there.
Yeah, you could potentially. Just really, the real tester is, like I said, the Wigan Warriors team. Because we know what they're like. But then Catalan are a solid team as well.
Well, they are a solid team, and they have gone through a radical overhaul of their roster after accusations of it being too old in certain regards to their packed age. They have certainly freshened the side up. Samasodi Langi jumping ship over to Wakefield Trinity. Sam Cassiano, Gil Dudson, and Josh Drinkwater all ending up at the Warrington Wolves. Benjamin Julien joining Pierre in the French Elite Championship. Corentin Lecam, once the tallest man in Super League, now defecting to Serre Rugby Union in France. Wow. Dean Vare also making the trip to French Elite with Julien joining Pierre. Dylan Napa yet to confirm where he's going to land. He jumped off the radar here because no one's mentioned where he might end up yet.
No, he's really across here in NRL, in the Super League, or even a championship. It's just gone quiet. I reckon he's maybe got a few years left in him, but if there's been no word yet, he might end up being retiring.
In other departures, Joe Chan departing for the Melbourne in Storm, and a very rarity that you see French forwards competing in the NRL these days.
Yes.
Mathieu Koza ending up at the Featherstone Rovers, and Romain Franco yet to be determined where he might end up.
The signings for the Catalans Dragons have got Tom Johnston from Wakefield Trinity, Manu Ma'u from Hull FC, Siwa Takiaho and Adam Kieran from the Sydney Roosters, and Romain Navarrete from Toulouse Olympique, the opposite French team.
As well as Manu Ma'u, you mentioned him.
Yes.
From Hull FC.
FC,
Well, of course, the best player, regarding the signing of Tom Johnston, for me, the best player for the Catalan Dragons in 2022 was Fuad Yaha.
Yes.
20 tries, 4 try assists, 2,390 run meters, 26 tackle breaks, and 19 line breaks.
And he broke a record too last season, did he not? Eclipsing some...
I believe a club record.
That's what I meant.
The club's greatest ever try scorer.
Yes, that's the one I was thinking of.
So this is the real curious part here. Yaha and Johnston are both left edge wingers. Only one of them will play on the left-hand side in 2023.
Unless you chuck the other one at centre.
No, I wouldn't chuck Yaha or Johnston in the centres. I don't think they've really played centre, to be honest.
Well...
But that would relieve the one thing, and injury dictates a lot, as you well know. So it could be very easily, and in terms of doing the squad numbers, it's not uncommon for backs to be given numbers like not in the starting 13. Tom Davis, for instance, when he first joined Catalan, he was actually wearing 16 before being promoted as far as number 2.
Well, there you go.
So I could easily see Johnston going back to the bench in terms of his squad number when they are announced, probably wearing 16 again, and Tom Johnston picking up number 2. Probably going to have to learn to play on the right, but hey, look. Some players, they are either left or right specialists. On the edge they play, but really they can play either side of the field if you ask them to. Or
yeah, exactly.
Say, Tom, you're playing on the right-hand side of the field because Fuad, that's our first choice on the left, and that's the end of that.
Yeah, and players can adapt to it. It's the same position, but just a different side of the field. They just had to get used to some different things.
It's usually the technique sort of thing, whether you're a left-handed or a right-handed ball carrier, which really dictates a lot. But the way wingers are athletic these days, you can easily change the ball in your hand mid-flight before you even ground it down for a try.
Bloody oath they can. They're so crazy nowadays, but yeah. So if you have Yaha and Johnston out on each wing, that's some serious strike weapons out wide.
And having Siwa Takiaho and Manu Ma'u stiffen up the forward pack after letting some really big forwards go, I think that'll be a nice little readjustment right there, and banking on some nice young talent right there, including, speaking of Chans, Taiki Chan, the older brother of Joe, has actually signed a 1-year deal full-time with the squad.
Well, there you go.
So no doubt he will probably get a bit more game time, as his younger brother will in the NRL. The big thing for me, though, is can Tyrone May succeed in the halves?
Well, who knows? He's got big shoes to fill, and alongside, believe will be
Mitchell Pearce.
We
just announced Josh Drinkwater
Sorry.
is joining Warrington. He's not going to be there.
I'm still in half 2020-21. But we know what Josh Drinkwater did, and but Pearce will really need to step up and take control of this side if they want to go far.
Well, there are those weeks where he's able to score 2 tries a game, and then there are those where it's just like, hey, yo, man, where the hell were you?
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, he needs to be consistent in that. So Tyrone May, yeah.
You're thinking Roberts, weren't you?
Somewhat. Too many different things. Anyway, he probably will take the pressure off Pearce as well.
You better hope he would. Otherwise, I would probably have the confidence to try and get Artio more starting time.
Yeah.
Because we know he's going to be the bench utility when he's fit. And there's still all the questions about Sam Tompkins at the moment, whether, he retires, he plays on, or they try and shift him again.
I hope he plays on, personally. He's good for Catalans. He's good for the game over there, or and for England as well in the international scene.
You can't play on forever.
I know, but still.
But as the older statesman, he will definitely be another big factor here.
I'd say at least another year.
Well, last year, the Catalan Dragons finished fourth and were bundled out of the elimination final by the Leeds Rhinos. If their halves can't click straight away, even if Morg does play, I feel like Catalans still have the squad to make the playoffs, but in the grand scheme of it all, I think they might have missed their grand final window. If they didn't win in 2021, I don't think they're going to be back for some time.
Well, they didn't back it up with a solid finals playoffs performance in 2022. They really needed to back up that 2021 grand final again in 2022.
Well, I don't think they can, but they just need to be able not to be a loose cannon at the wrong time.
True.
And for that reason, with that suspicion in mind, I say the Catalan Dragons just finish inside the playoffs, finishing 6th on the table.
So they're going to drop down again, you reckon?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of sides just ahead of them in the playoffs race. One that, of course, made the grand final, and the other one that was expected to make the grand final. Who are they? Well, we'll tell you over the next 2 weeks.
That's true. Looking at their squad, they have lost a lot of experience, I have to say that, which isn't going to help their cause. But you have to look at, like, you got your two strike weapons out wide of Johnston and Yaha. Then you got Manu Ma'u and Takiaho in the, like you said, stiffen up the middle. Oh, I think Catalans will slip down and maybe finish outside, or maybe about 5th on the ladder.
So you're going to say...
Just sneaking in again.
So I say just on the cusp of the playoffs in 6th. You say a little bit higher, finishing 5th on the table.
Just.
Well, that is the Catalan Dragons 2023. He looked through the eyes of the blokes on the sideline. Now, the problem child of the city of Hull. It is Hull FC. He's turned to be placed under the microscope. This was really going to be expected, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, it was. They just don't know what happened with him. Like, seriously. What has gotten into Hull FC, I honestly don't know.
Well, actually, we jumped a little bit too far ahead here, alphabetically.
Oh, well, let's...
The Huddersfield Giants, actually. He's so preoccupied with exposing problem childs in East Yorkshire, we forget the one who actually did good. And that was, in fact, the Huddersfield Giants in 2022.
Yeah, they were the very quiet achievers in 2022. They didn't go out all guns blazing. Like, you know, they had their off games and that, like everyone does. But seriously, they finished 3rd on the table at the end of the season. That was a pretty unexpected result, I think, from a lot of people's point of view.
Many criticised Ian Watson during his first year in charge. He obviously listened to those criticisms and he came back a much improved Huddersfield side. Theo Farge, absolute masterstroke signing him up right there. I mean, they only had 2 losses in the opening 8 matches of the campaign. 5 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses. That's pretty good going.
And that set them up for the rest of the season.
Well, they were the 3rd best side across the entire campaign. No questions about that. I mean, they still had their struggles against the top sides, like, of course, St. Helens and the Wigan Warriors. Of course, they actually made it to the Challenge Cup final. Played at Tottenham Hotspurs.
Yes.
And that match could have gone either way if it was not for a late minute Harry Smith assist for a Liam Marshall try.
Yes, that is true there. But yeah, Huddersfield kind of like the best of the rest against the 2, like I said, top sides of Saints and Wigan. They hopefully build on that for next year, or this year, sorry.
Well, remarkably, they actually beat the Wigan Warriors after the Challenge Cup, I believe. They might have lost the cup, but they actually beat them the week after. So, out of the best sides we gauge them off, they've done rather well. And I mean, it's not just Theo Farge who was the big improver for the Huddersfield Giants, but I got to say, Chris McQueen. Excuse me. How many times could you not look at Chris McQueen getting on the try scorer sheet? It was literally... How many tries did he actually end up scoring?
Oh, I don't know, to be quite honest with you. It was quite a fair... It would have been double digits, easily in double digits.
That is probably the best I've ever seen Chris McQueen play. From what I can remember, because he didn't have the best time in his last few days in the NRL.
No, not at all.
And then he makes the move to Huddersfield, and there's always the question of will he stay on? And then sure enough, 2022, it's just like bang. Hey, you want to have a home for him? That's his home right there.
Yeah, it's kind of like rejuvenated him.
And Chris Hill was also a genius signing as well. A hard head that stabilizes the forward pack. And I mean, for English and Wilson, big benefits for their development as young forwards.
Exactly. Sometimes you need a mixture of youth and experience in the forwards.
But that Huddersfield forward pack, I mean, you had Chris Hill, you had Chris McQueen, you had Luke Yates, the captain, in the middle of the field. You had Josh Jones playing back to his best when he was playing at Salford. Then a young crop of forwards like Wilson, like Matty English, coming through and really hitting their strides, or beginning to hit their strides.
Yeah.
But the best player for me, sorry for cutting you off, but the best player for me, it was actually Tui Lolohea.
Yeah, he had an absolute ripper of a year.
5 tries, 29 try assists, 2,512 run meters, 97 tackle breaks, 6 line breaks, 14 offloads, and 18 from 26 goals converted. Very
solid effort from Lolohea right there. I have to agree, he had a stellar season and was one of Huddersfield's best, and he kind of helped guide Huddersfield to third spot on the table.
They had not moved from third since the end of July. That's basically where they stayed. They were, regardless of the losses they did incur, the 2 losses at the back end, they did not move from third at all from July 30th till the playoffs, where they were knocked out by Salford on a clean slate.
Yeah, it's probably like it's the consistency of them and the for and against that probably kept them in third, and the gap between them and the Dragons on the overall competition points.
But that elimination final knockout was absolutely shocking. That the third best side in Super League, Wigan and Saints both ahead of them, and Salford coming and clean up. Like the third year running, that the team in third got knocked out by the team in sixth.
Well, I was kind of really surprised about that result too. Like, I thought Huddersfield were going to absolutely go through to the semis, but...
In 2020, Warrington get knocked out by the 6th place Hull FC, and they go on to lose to Wigan in the semi-finals, trialers. 2021, Hull KR knocked Warrington out of the playoffs race, having also finished 6th on the table, but they lose to Catalan in the semi-final that year. Last year, Huddersfield finished 3rd, having been much improved on from the year before, and Salford come in 6th and knock them out, nilled again, the 2nd year running that a side had got nilled in the 3rd v6 elimination final. Is it a curse to finish 3rd now?
It looks to be that way.
Well, mind you, it was only 2 clubs that have finished 3rd, Warrington twice, and Huddersfield, so it's...
But still, doesn't matter if it's the same club 3 times. It seems to be a curse at the moment.
But it's absolutely ridiculous that has happened. That the team in 3rd got knocked out in the first week of the playoffs rather than going on to play the team in 2nd in the semi-finals. It's absolutely mind-boggling.
Very much indeed. But, like I said, it's hard to predict who's going to win when.
Well, we do know that Huddersfield won't be participating in round 1 owing to St Helens' participation in the World Club Challenge. So that round 1 fixture has been postponed until it is rearranged at a later date. Their first game, however, will be a home game against the Warrington Wolves. Will they be much better in 2023, Warrington, or will Huddersfield still have the wood over them?
I'd say Huddersfield still have the wood over them, in my opinion, but... only time will tell.
Time will tell. Darryl Powell could do a lot of things, but Ian Watson could also get his squad up and running as well. Round 3 sees them travel to the Be Well Support Stadium to take on Wakefield Trinity. Expected to win, but they narrowly escaped Wakefield in the final rounds of the season.
Yeah, they certainly did. Like, Wakefield were finishing on strong at the back end of the season, and it was a close call there for a couple of teams, really, and Huddersfield was one of them.
Round 4 sees another home game on their first game on Sky Sports up against Castleford, which could go either way, that one.
It very much can.
I would be leaning more in the direction of Huddersfield. Right
Yep.
there, round 5, once again taking on the Wigan Warriors.
Well, it'd be effectively third versus second from last season.
It would be a mouth-watering clash.
Oh, yeah, it would be.
Challenge Cup, the following fixture after that. That
Could
would be
Huddersfield cause an
one
upset?
to watch. And round 6, just so we get an even 5 fixtures in for them, hosting the reigning champions.
Yeah, that's going to
at
be
the Johnston
hard.
Stadium, their second Sky Sports fixture.
And the two teams that finished above them 2 weeks in a row. So that's going to be very, very tough for Huddersfield. But
They are. I think they will be they will build on their third place finish in 2022, and I think with the way they have shaped their roster up going into this, I think they're in with a fair chance. Of course, they have had, as I say, goodbye to Ricky Latelli, a big part of that, who has joined the Leeds Leopards in 2023. Club stalwart Michael Lawrence has joined the Bradford Bulls in a big power play by the former 3-time Super League champions. Jack Cogger linking up with the Penrith Panthers on his way back to the NRL, as is Danny Levi, who only recently announced he was joining the Canberra Raiders, or Canberra announcing his signature right there.
yes.
George Roby also heading the way of Bradford on a season-long loan. Jake Wardle joining the Wigan Warriors. So a whole new centre pairing going on in 2023, and Lewis Senior ending up at Hull KR.
Yes, very much so. But I have signed some really key players.
The biggest signing of them all is Jake Connor from Hull FC.
Yes.
After several seasons in the black and whites, Jake the Snake finally makes a return to the Claret and Gold, where he made his first team debut all the way back in 2013, I believe.
Well, there you go.
So 10 years since his first year with Huddersfield, he's back in the Claret and Gold.
There you go. And he's joined by Sam Hassel, who also comes from Wigan Warriors. Sorry, my bad there. Sam Hassel and Jake Bibiak joining from the Wigan Warriors.
Yet another worst-kept secret in
Yeah.
rugby league, that Jake Bibby would make the move to Huddersfield to once again play under Ian Watson. Isan Masters joining up from the Gold Coast Titans, with Harry Rushton also joining up from the Canberra Raiders, having been let go from the last year and a half of his contract?
I think so, yep. Kevin Nagama from the Sydney Roosters and Harvey Levette from Salford, along with Nathan Peets alongside from Toulouse.
That has to be probably the best recruitment drive I have seen out of all 12 Super League clubs. Arguably the best recruitment drive right there.
And is that really going to bolster them again for this season?
The big question will be, can Ian Watson get the best out of Jake Connor? Well, let me put you in the direction of Tui Lolohea, Chris McQueen, Will Price, Ollie Russell, Matty English.
I'm going to
You
say yes.
tell me who he hasn't gotten the best out of yet.
I'm going to say yes. He's going to get the best out of Jake Connor.
And the interesting thing is, because he's got Lola here at fullback, and Jake Connor plays his best at fullback, but the word is he's going to move into the halves once more, play at standoff alongside Theo Farge.
Jake Connor.
Yep.
Yeah, but you could also put Lola Heel in the halves as well.
He could, but I
Works
think
both ways.
it could work both ways. But either way, I feel like I could back Ian Watson to get the best out of Jake Connor.
What do you think Jake Connor's better at fullback or in the halves?
I honestly think fullback. I mean, he's sort of like the Latrell Mitchell of Super League. All the talent in the world, but he's maligned by his inconsistent performances. But on his day, look out.
Yeah.
Because he is a talent, and nothing short. But whatever's holding him back from getting an England jumper or returning into the England fold, I think if Ian Watson could get him into an England jumper, I reckon that could be much as well mission accomplished.
Yeah. No, but that's a really big signing there, and it's going to be really good to see if Ian Watson can get the best out of Jake Connor.
I reckon he can. Regardless of whether it's standoff or fullback, he will get the best out of him.
And like I said, they might experiment a couple of games with Jake Connor at fullback and a couple in the halves and switch him around with Lola Halo or whatever and see who's better off, and they'll play on from there.
I think Ian Watson has now got a very much a complete side. And I look at that side on paper and I think, yes, this is a side that can make the jump. This
I
is
think
ultimate.
they can. It's pretty much their window for the premiership or whatever you call it is open.
Yeah, I think that is well and truly open for them. And I think there will be a lot of opportunity that they can take from St. Helens. Still being competitive, but I feel like they're going to get smashed by the World Cup Challenge trip all up. That's what I think will be a big factor for them. And that's how they make the jump. Last year, Huddersfield finished third on the table and bumbled out in the first week of the playoffs. I reckon they go one better. I will say the Huddersfield Giants will finish second on the table.
I'm going to go one better than you and say they're going to take out the Miners.
So one that says that they will get a home semi-final in 2023 to one who says not only a home semi-final, but will take out the league leaders' shield.
Yep.
Wow, that is a big call right there.
Yeah, but hey, it's predictions for a reason.
It is predictions for a reason. But
That's
one
the
that says
biggest
second,
bold one yet.
The other who says this team will be the 2023 Betfred Super League league leaders.
It's going to be bloody tough, but looking at that team on paper, I think they've got it in them.
Well, this is going to be mouth-watering regardless. And finally, after jumping the gun initially on them by one club, we finally get to Hull FC's 2022 season.
Yeah, I don't think they want to reflect on that too much after finishing ninth.
Yes, and
I'm surprised. Sorry, but seriously, they could have been a lot worse.
a false dawn, I would have to say, under Brett Hodgson. They beat Wakefield round one, but it's only Wakefield.
Yeah.
And they did not... And I suppose, like Castleford, Hollisey have potential in them.
Maybe not
I'm looking
anymore.
at by mid-June, they are fifth on the table. And you're thinking, and Hull FC fans have experienced this roller coaster too, they were in the position of finishing in the top six, but this streak of fifth ended with 4 straight losses. Drop goal loss to Wakefield, pumped by the Catalan Dragons, that ridiculous 4-0 loss to the Warrington Wolves. With no tries, just 2 penalty goals all up.
Yes.
Worst game. And then getting pumped by the Leeds Rhinos 62-16, which saw them drop to 6, and they just didn't recover.
Nope.
60-0, they got pumped by Wigan. 46-18 by Castleford. 60-6, pumped by St. Helens. And they got pumped at the back end of the year. If from round 18 through the 27, they only won 3 times.
Wow.
3 wins and 6 losses from the final third of the season. That's just not good enough.
No, it's certainly not. I think there was a derby, a whole derby
whole
or 2
derby.
loss.
Derby, yep, Hull KR pumped them 36-4.
Wasn't there 2 derbies in the last 6 weeks?
Well, they had Magic as well, but that was a thriller they won.
That's right, they did too. My apologies.
And then they got pumped by Wigan 60-0 after that.
Exactly.
That Magic weekend win against the Robins. But this was an absolute disaster from Hull FC. Like Castleford, looked likely to finish in the top 6, but the results did not translate from being in them.
No way they did. But it's going to be a lot harder too without a key player as well.
Well, Jake Connor was their best in 2022, and it's hard to believe that they did not fight harder to keep him. 4 tries, 33 try assists, 1,447 run meters, 39 tackle breaks, 6 line breaks, 17 offloads, and 17 from 25 goals converted. So they lost a backup goal kicker, essentially, and their best fullback on paper.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be tough for him.
But even
This
with
season.
Connor was playing, and I know we were talking about this criticism earlier, that's sort of how it is. We think 1 week, why isn't he playing for England? Only for the next week to realise why he isn't playing for England.
Exactly. And you're quite open and mentioning that a fair few times throughout the season. But it's the truth, though.
It is a fact. Undeniably, it is a fact that it is hard for Jake Connor because he is a maverick type of player, but he's also much maligned with that sort of maverick status to him.
Yeah.
But he does bring bums on seats. Or he is a player that is capable of selling out crowds. Because you want to see him play. You want him to have 5 try assists a game, maybe score a try, kick a couple of goals at it as well.
Yeah.
Is he a runner? No. A ball player? Certainly.
Yes. He just needs to focus
if
on...
he can just hone in on being an all-round first-class fullback, I think that's what everyone wants in Jake Connor.
He just needs to focus on his position and like ball running and all of that before he worries about everything else. Perfect that part of his game, then try and build on his game like that more by adding those extra skills and all that stuff. So just focus on one at the moment, which hopefully he does this season, and then go on from there.
And it really, I think the coach, it would be a big part. Could he got on that under Tony Smith? Maybe, but he has been out of the game for a few years since his last posting at Hull KR, so we'll have to see how that one pans out right there. But this is how Hull will face their first 5 fixtures down. Of course, we're already covered. Round 1, they are up against the Castleford Tigers at home, so always good to start with a home win. And right there, potentially, considering they have been a thorn on the Tigers' side for some time. Round 2, on the other hand, and they are away at Headingley against the Leeds Rhinos. Some of these clashes have gone the black and white's way. Other times they have fallen the way of the mighty Rhinos.
So it's pretty much like a flip of a coin.
This will be a flip of a coin, especially for the grand finalists. Right there, I would have to say. Round 3, they will be away in the south of France up against the Catalan Dragons, which is not always a happy hunting ground for teams. So good luck on that one. Especially with their weakened roster, so to speak, without their biggest X factor present. Round 4, they are at home once more, up against the surprise packet Salford in the 2022 scheme of things. How will they back it up in 2023 before their second Sky Sports appearance in round 5, up against the reigning champions?
Yeah, well, we know how that one's going to turn out.
Yeah, it's going to be St. Helens.
Yeah.
Even after their hangover from everything that's gone on. World Cup, World Club Challenge, Battle of the Sex, and ripping Salford off another couple of players.
Bugger off you.
Or denied another semi-final appearance. Grand final, whichever way you want to go. But yeah, we all know St. Helens, even in a weakened state, could probably still win that one.
Yeah. Easy.
But competitive. I would say competitive, but whether they can actually capitalize on that competitiveness, that's probably another story altogether on itself.
It certainly is.
But they will have to do it, of course, as we mentioned, without Jake Connor, who has joined the Huddersfield Giants. Luke Gale surprisingly joining the Keighley Cougars in the Betfred Championship.
Surprisingly, yes.
Will Smith, who joined on for literally half a season, is now going to go back to the NRL to link up with the West Tigers. Marcus Walker joining the Newcastle Thunder. Manu Ma'u going to the Catalan Dragons. And Josh Bowden defecting to Wakefield partway through the end of the season. And Jordan Johnston joining the Widnes Vikings. Of course, we mentioned Jacob Hookham going to the Castleford Tigers. Josh Reynolds has joined the Canterbury Bulldogs on a train and trial deal, which will run out at the end of this month. And Aidan Burrell, who is yet to determine where he will end up.
And the signings they haven't made many signings, but they've got Jake Truman from Castleford Tigers, Liam Sutcliffe and Brad Dwyer from the Leeds Rhinos, and also Jack Clifford and Tex Hoy from the Newcastle Knights there.
So in one foul swoop, Tony Smith has now overhauled his side completely. From Brett Hodgson to him who also left partway through, or he was given the sack at the end of it, if I remember correctly. But double signing, Brad Dwyer is probably amongst the best dummy halves who can really bring an impact to the game. Jake Clifford.
He hasn't really shown himself much. Really, Jake Clifford,
I would probably think underappreciated and undervalued at Newcastle.
Yeah, he kept getting in and out of the side too much. But even at North Queensland,
Jake Truman is a positive development, but is long-term injury will mean he won't be available straight away after he did his knee for his final game against, can't remember who he was facing, but it's his final game where he did his knee. Unfortunately, he ruled him out for the rest of the year and maybe even the start of this year as well.
More than likely, probably will be, but he'll be back.
Liam Sutcliffe, I think, is another good signing there, but again, it always depends on how they're going to pull up when they actually get down there. And for me, I think Hull FC have disappointed for far too long on what they are capable of doing, but they have not capitalised on doing.
True. They just really need to capitalise on what they can do.
I don't think Tony Smith is the answer.
I think they're trying to go too big, and players aren't comfortable doing that, so they're losing more often than winning. If they just go back to the basics, kind of start from the bottom again, like with the basics, and then work your way up from there. If the basics work, let that run for a few weeks, and then go on from that to try and progress up the ladder.
It's really the same problem Castlewood have. They're good mid-year contenders. They can play well up until about July, but then they'll fall off a perch come September, and they just won't even feature in the playoffs. Yeah. That's what Hull FC and Castlewood, Hull FC's problem, as well as Castlewood's problem, are. They're good half-season contenders.
Yeah.
It's sluggish start, they might look good by the middle of the year, and then die in the arse big time.
They just need to keep that momentum from the middle of the season going for the rest of the season, though. That's where their biggest problem is.
Yeah, that is exactly where it is. Last year, Hull FC finished 8th on the table despite...
Hull FC, you mean 9th?
9th, sorry. Wrong Hull. They finished 9th on the table in 2022. I think they'll do one worse. I think they finished 10th on the ladder.
I'm going to say... I'm going to say 11th.
11th? Wow.
Yep.
That's a really big...
Avoiding the relegation... But 11th, I don't see them improving much in 2023.
No, I have little doubt that they will actually feature in the playoffs yet again after that surprise run in 2020, where they shouldn't have been the top 6, but there was, but that's another matter. Now, before we move on completely, there's a couple of rule changes being introduced for the Betfred Super League in 2023. One, all us NRL fans are familiar with, the introduction of the 18th man.
Hey!
But this one is interesting. The green card.
Okay.
Yes, the green card. We've sort of heard of this rule before. It was introduced around about 21, 22. Sort of the idea to try and speed the game up, where if you go down injured, regardless of whether it is genuine or you're faking it, which coming 9 out of 10 would probably be faking it, you'll be now shown a green card where you have to stay off the field for 2 minutes. And they're going to really enforce this.
So kind of like a medical kind of card in an extent.
Yeah, so it's really, the referee now has a traffic light system of cards.
Yeah.
If you're injured for whatever reason, you'll be shown the green card, off the field for 2 minutes. Even if you're not injured, you'll have to go off the field. So you'll be down to 12 for 2 minutes. Regardless of whatever it is. Of course, HIAs will be a different matter.
Yeah, HIAs will be different, yeah.
Of course. And then, of course, functioning as normal, yellow cards and red cards for sin bins and send-offs, respectively.
There you go. So the green card. I wonder how well that will go. Is that to try and stop a lot of the crap from the fake injuries? Yeah.
Yes, that is exactly
Maybe they
what
need that
this is.
system over here.
I read the articles in the Examiner. I like what they're going to do. If they can actually enforce this, no doubt the NRL introduces it for 2024.
Yeah,
I would really love to see that happen.
Because have the red and yellow cards as well, or just the green card?
Well, we don't do cards, but something like the green card system, what the green card they're doing there, I want it enforced in the NRL.
So that would stop a lot of crap and fake injuries.
See that. We don't want
and
to
time wasting.
Exactly.
Most of them back into the games.
That's why we introduced the 6 again rule, to stop the time wasting with penalties.
And this this green card then, I can see it as a good thing too, because back in the games, the team's going to win anyway. They just like to wind down the clock, and they go down injured, faking injuries. Well, this will stop a lot of that crap. And it'll actually be a competitive match from start to finish. Well, hopefully a competitive match from start to finish.
Well, just cut the bullshit. Just cut it out. We just want a nice, clean game where the best team wins. That's all we want. We don't want all these fake football actors is hurting when they're not invading pitches, which is like, oh, I'm hurt. Oh, okay, you get a penalty. Oh, would you look at that? The Lord has blessed me with healing properties.
Exactly.
We don't want that. Just
No.
if they can enforce this and get it right, it's going to be in the NRL.
And then maybe even in the international scene.
It'll probably end up as an international rule too.
Yeah. Which will be brilliant.
On that note, that is full time here from us. If you liked this first episode of Season 3, make sure you leave this one a like, hit that subscribe button, and click the bell for notifications so you never miss a week of Rugby League. Don't forget to give us a follow on our social media pages. On Facebook and on Instagram it is at Sideline Chat, and on Twitter it is at Sideline Chat RL, as well as one of our hashtags being SideChatYT. Hope you enjoyed this first day back on the job. We'll be back next week with the second part of the Betfred Super League preview. What will be in store for the Robins on the other side of the city of Hull? Can the Leeds Rhinos go one better? And what the hell is it with Leopard Prince and the Lee side? We'll answer all those questions next week. Along with Mark Henry, I'm Connor Marcellus, and you have been listening to the Sideline Chat podcast. We'll see you then.
See yous.